Hey there, Booktube. Noah. I figured I'd sit down and give you guys a book haul that I made today at a local Goodwill that I hit all the time. They have an awesome book selection, and I came across some really special stuff. So gonna touch on that, and then I'm gonna give you the greatest, my greatest fiction read from 2019 and my worst fiction read from 2019. So book haul first, because I might rant a little bit about my the book that disappointed me from 2019. So currently I'm in the middle of Stoner. I'm about a third of the way through. It is great writing. Um, very fun, of a story, really laid back, beautiful, but the writing is on the level. Beautiful wording, even the mediocre stuff, subject matter is expressed very beautifully, and so I'm glad I was turned on to it. Booktube, thank you Booktube for that. A lot of booktubers have said something about it, and I came across it, and first used bookstore that I went to find it, there it was. So on to my book haul. Today I picked up Louisa May Alcott. This is the Transcendental Wild Oats, and I don't know much about what this is about or anything about it. Have come in contact with Louisa May Alcott in her poetry. It's transcendental poetry. It's all beautiful. So I picked that up just on a whim. It'll probably, get muscled through this little thing. Get muscled through in half a day or something like that, just to experience it. A Norton critical edition of Thomas More's Utopia. I have a dream of writing a type of utopian sci-fi. So it will be something where I do some research for that book by reading utopias and anti-utopias and critical essays on utopian works, and there's a lot of that in here, and so I just put it on the shelf, and we'll stick it with some other of the books that I have just to do that research with. And I found Joseph Conrad, The Secret Agent. It looks like a fun read. Something like, it says on the back, the main character definitely is not James Bond. He's not a spy. He's more of a terrorist, and his group is kind of, I see him as kind of bumbling spies that have a plan, might be in over their head with, or something like that. So the penultimate book from my book haul, The Tree of Life, Israel Regarded. So I had not come in contact with this before. Israel Regarded I've come in contact with a bit, and it's interesting. Some Kabbalah, Christian Kabbalah, some things like that in here. So very illustrated, this edition. Got it for $1.75 or something like that. So can't go wrong there. I'll read it and thumb through it as I feel like before starting some Kabbalah study at some point. And then the last book from my book haul is the Gethsemane Encounter, a dialogue on the spiritual life by Buddhist and Christian monastics. This is edited by Donald Mitchell, sorry, and James Wiseman. I was a Buddhist for 10 plus years, had a lot of perspective explosions in my Buddhist life and my Buddhist sutra study. And then I came in contact with William Blake. Had a series of other perspective explosions where I, had Christianity come back around. A very personal, mystical type of Christianity, but Christianity nonetheless. Jesus is real, guys. So I thought that might be right up my alley. A little Christian Buddhist dialogue, comparing, contrasting Buddhist monastic with Christian monastics and what they say about different religious experience, or the same religious experience from different perspectives, and seeing where they are alike and where they differ a little bit. And is those differences merely cultural, or is there something spiritual underneath that? So I was pretty certain what my most disappointing book of the year was, because when I read it, I closed the book having trudged through the end, hoping that it would turn out differently, and of course it didn't. So I was very let down. It pissed me off. But when I was trying to think of what is my favorite book of the year, I was thinking about a couple of different books, and I couldn't. Nothing really took that top spot away from If on a Winter's Night a Traveler. Now, if you haven't experienced Italo Calvino, I suggest Baron in the Trees. That's a great work that I've read. That's wonderful, and his short stories are great. Numbers in the Dark is got some good stuff in it. But there's a lot of Calvino that I haven't experienced yet, and namely his masterwork Invisible Cities. So, If on a Winter's Night a Traveler, I came and found it because I was looking for novels that are in, the second person, I believe, perspective. You are the main character. You do this, you do that. At the beginning of Winter's Night a Traveler, you go and pick up a copy of If on a Winter's Night a Traveler, because you want to read it, and you're in the bookstore and you get it and you start it and and the second chapter is the book. You're reading that book, and it is misprinted. And so after that chapter, the book is messed up and you can't continue on, and you go back to the bookstore. The chapter after that, you go back to the bookstore and you're hunting for this book, and it's a problem that's happened with other readers too. You meet another reader that also has the same problem as you. You exchange numbers, and then you're off. And the book is a series of those events. You end up starting story after story after story that are not the same story, that are not connected in any way. You end up starting a lot of different books, and they're all very interesting, and they all get you in one chapter, and then you're done, and you're left, and you're totally frustrated the way that you are frustrated in a novel. It's about you, and you're frustrated and you go through this adventure trying to finish a book, please, and it's just fun, hilarious, and Calvino is a genius, an amazing writer. I read another book that was from the same perspective that turned me on to it, called Mr. Either Or. Now that is a very small novella written in poetry. So it's written in verse, and it's a blistering fast read, because it kind of strikes you like you're reading a choose your own adventure book, only you're not making choices. You're just along for the ride. And since it's in verse, you are definitely moving quickly, The book is in two parts. First part is fantasy, second part is sci-fi. And I can't recommend that one enough if you can get your hands on a copy of Mr. Either Or. So on to the end of this video will be this one here. This is my most disappointing book for 2019. Man, I had high hopes. The last book by this author was something like 4 years ago, and it was my favorite book by this author. And the book that just came out this last year turned out to be my least favorite book by this author, and I can't believe that he went this far away from what he does. But this is Chuck Palahniuk, Adjustment Day. I don't know if I don't see a lot of die-hard Palahniuk fans on Booktube. I don't know what it is. I think is he, not fluffy enough in fantasy, and I don't know what it is. He's not fluffy enough for some booktubers, and then he's just too much of a shock value, kind of writer for others. I don't know what it is, but I don't see anybody, much talking about Chuck Palahniuk. I used to love Chuck Palahniuk. I've had a lot of happy reading experiences with Chuck Palahniuk. I love his model where he takes popular culture idea, like in Pygmy, for example. The idea is sleeper cells, and he uses that in a very unique way. He uses the pop culture idea that he's chosen for the book, and then there's always a twist in the book that you never see coming that makes the book different than you expect. Now, spoiler alert, I'm going to say that. I'm not going to give too much away because, it's just, I'm not like that with books, but I am going to just talk freely about it. Chuck Palahniuk in this book, it is a book about, the end of society as we know it. Adjustment Day is a day like a purged kind of day where, by this underground book called Adjustment Day by a guy named Talbot Reynolds. I just took the dust jacket off so you can see that the book itself is the book from the story that it lays out the method by which everybody is going to take out all the elites, all the learned, jackasses, all the liberal jackasses from, the universities and all this crap, but they're gonna weed out all the people that they don't like, and there's a online petition for who is going to be weeded out, and then by taking them out, shooting them, killing them, and then cutting off their ear and tagging it right like this, then you get a certain amount of votes or something in the new society, and by how many you have, that will rank the people in the new society. And it's laid out like all the different races or all the different peoples will have their own section of America to live in. But it only works out in the book that there's whites in, the northern part of America. There's blacks in the southern part of America. And then there's homosexuals in the eastern or the western side of America. And all other, religions, all other races get shipped back to their own countries. And there's no commentary about the rest of the world and how they might take this kind of thing happening and whatever. And it's just asinine. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's so shallow in that respect. And then also, the writing is atrocious. I mean, Chuck Palahniuk can do so much better than this. And I know, I don't want to be too hard on him. I know he's been through a lot. I read this thing on his website where, he had millions of dollars stolen from him by by a family member, somebody that was part of his, in part of his inner circle for years. I know it's horrible, but maybe he didn't apply himself here. It's bad when every time 20 or 30 times in this book, when it is somebody's jam, when somebody is really into something and really wanting to, that this is what they're all about. It is described as characterized as their porno, as their pornography. Now, I mean, I get it. Maybe once or maybe twice. Something like that, just to show. But it was every time. Every time you are talking about somebody being, all about something or something being somebody's jam, that is their, that's your go-to. Do you have no other descriptive word for, for that? So I was just hating it. And then the another 20 or 30 times in this book, I was amazed at how many times something was described as raping somebody. There's a conspiracy theory in this book where America was going to start a war to thin out the population, the male population, and it goes into it a little bit where this was something that the government knew about. These senators, whoever was involved, they knew what they were doing, and they were pushing forward this conflict so that they could do this. And Adjustment Day was working to stop that from happening. They didn't want they didn't want this conflict to happen. But you go out and be sent to the desert to be bullet raped. Okay, I can understand that. Using it where it needs to be, but there was too many times when that was just the go-to to describe something that was going on, and I just was like, this is horrible writing. It blew my mind, and so I muscled through the end, just waiting for the twist, saying maybe this wording, maybe all this stuff has a meaning, has something behind it that I don't know yet, because Chuck Palahniuk is a twist kind of guy. He's I don't understand the story completely yet until I get to the end, and then no twist. He broke from his model in this one, and it fell deeply short, and I was really disappointed. If you like Chuck Palahniuk, please comment. If you don't like the new book, please comment. If you do like it, please comment. We'll have a little back and forth. There's a lot more I could say. I was deeply disappointed, and especially off the last one, Beautiful You. He wrote that one 4 years ago. I love that book. It was so fun. The end is so good. The whole thing is just hilarious and well told, and it's a great book. And there's so many other really good fun romps from Chuck Palahniuk. I just think that I think that he just fell off. I don't know what it is that did it. If he was just trying to put something out there and because he knows it's going to sell, making his money, or if I don't know what. I don't try to say what, and I'm not trying to really nail him too hard, but that's my take. Thank you, Booktube, for joining me, and catch you on the next one. Happy reading.